Larry Page and I used to be close friends, and I would stay at his house in Palo Alto, and I would talk to him late into the night about AI safety. And at least my perception was that Larry was not taking AI safety seriously enough.
What did he say about it?
He really seemed to be one sort of digital superintelligence, basically digital God, if you will, as soon as possible.
He wanted that?
Yes. He's made many public statements over the years that the whole goal of Google is what's called AGI, artificial general intelligence, or artificial superintelligence.
Staying focused for Jesus.
Thanks for waking up with us.
How you doing, everybody? Welcome back to Staying Focused for Jesus. Hope each and every one of you are having a blessed day in the Lord Jesus Christ as always. Today is Tuesday, May 16th, 2023. Tuesday, May 16th, 2023. The time is currently 4:43, about to be 4:44. For those who know about the number 444, right about now. Now, I was going to do part 2 of the video prior to this one, and I hope y'all thoroughly enjoyed that one. But you come across stuff that just makes you sometimes stop in your tracks. And this is one of those videos where it's like, okay, let me see what they're talking about. And then you go see what they're talking about, and it opens up, as we say, a whole other can of worms. But in the opening of that can of worms, you find that things are more connected than what you think they were connected. Now on the screen you see I have U.S. Virgin Islands demographics. And you see it says that, of course we know this, but just to show you for those who don't know, the Virgin Islands is supposed to be 71.4% black. You can make an argument how much more it is or how much less, but you get the point. 13.3% white, 6.3% other, 7.5% multiracial, and 1% Asian. 1% Asian. You got that, right? Let's go over here. This is a video I came across, it popped up, and I said, okay, let me check it out. It said, shocking new Epstein papers reveal creepy targeting of children for medical experiments. The title doesn't say anything specific in regards to, certain thing. I just happened to see the title. I'm like, interesting title. But I was drawn to the video on the spiritual level, and I know why. I didn't read this. I saw the title, and then later on I read it. Matter of fact, I think this is my first time actually reading this. But it says Whitney Webb is back to discuss new revelations in the Jeffrey Epstein revelations. She said that after being busted for trafficking in 2007, Epstein focused on recruiting teens to his company in the U.S. Virgin Islands. He recruited the Islander teens using the same tactics he had employed to entrap underage girls in Palm Beach and beyond. The goal of the company, Southern Trust, and Epstein's other efforts at this time reveal how Epstein's interest in transhumanism and minors disturbingly coalesce. If I said that right, coalesce. I probably said it wrong. So, like I said, this is my first time reading this description. Now, I already watched the video, and there's a connection between transhumanism, and minors, Jeffrey Epstein, artificial intelligence, and black children from the Virgin Islands, but black children overall, and specifically Hebrew Israelites. Now, I know that may sound crazy. Like, oh man, that's a conspiracy theory. You're absolutely right. It is a conspiracy and it is a theory. It is a conspiracy and it is a theory. Matter of fact, because this is notion that something is wrong if you believe in a conspiracy theory. Conspiracy. What does it mean? A plotting of evil, unlawful design, a combination of persons for an evil purpose. Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. You're absolutely right. I am a conspiracy theorist. I believe that they are evil people, evil entities that are plotting evil purposely. They are plotting evil purposely. They are coming into agreement. They are in a union together. They are united together. They breathe together. They have one spirit. Conspire, aspire, or plan maliciously, agree together to commit a criminal or reprehensible act. To breathe, it says, see what? See spirit. So I 100% accept that I am a conspiracy theorist. When you understand what something means, and you truly understand it through the spirit, they can't use these scare tactics against you. Or you're a conspiracy theorist. You're right. I do believe that there are people and entities that are acting together cohesively with one spirit to bring about these evil acts. Of course. Then you go look at the word theory. What is a theory? Conception, mental scheme, contemplation, speculation. So you're coming up, you're contemplating and saying, hey man, there's something right about this. I believe they're conspiring as one to do evil, to keep it simple. I'm speculating that they are doing this evil. A looking at, a viewing, a sight, show, spectacle, things looked at. I'm looking at the things presented in front of me and the things that are not presented, that I am perceiving, that I'm viewing, which is where you get what? Theory comes from the word theater. Just like you sit in front of a movie and you kind of like have an idea what the movie is about. And then you could put the pieces together throughout the movie to find out what's going on. Or you already know what's going to happen before you see the movie. Or when you watch the movie, you already know what's going to happen. But they don't tell you all this. They don't tell you all this. I am perceiving that they're doing evil. I am perceiving that they are plotting to do evil. Let's go over here. Bible. Go to Bible Gateway. And we're going to type in the word conspiracy. And let's see, what does it give us? Oh, conspiracy is actually in the Bible. Conspiracy is actually in the Bible. And Absalom sent forth Ahithophel the Gilonite, David's counselor, from his city, even Gilo, while he offered sacrifices. And the conspiracy was strong, for the people increased continually with Absalom. They were conspiring against who? You know who. And his servants arose and made a conspiracy and slew Joash in the house of Milo, which goeth down to Sila. They conspired to what? To kill him. Now they made a conspiracy against him in Jerusalem, and he fled to Lachish. But they sent after him to Lachish and slew him there. Conspiracy they made. And Hosea, the son of Elah, made a conspiracy against Pekah, the son of Remaliah, and smote him. And the king of Assyria found conspiracy in Hosea, for he had sent messengers to So, king of Egypt. And the Lord said unto me, A conspiracy is found among the men of Judah and among the inhabitants of Jerusalem. Even God is talking about conspiracy theories. God himself is a conspiracy theorist. They take words. That's why the Bible tells you that there's death and life is in the power of the tongue. That's what the Bible tells you, to get knowledge, and with all that knowledge to get understanding. God is a conspiracy theorist. And the Lord said unto me, a conspiracy is found among the men of Judah. There is a conspiracy of her prophets in the midst thereof, like a roaring lion ravening the prey. They have devoured souls. They have taken the treasure and precious thing. They have made her many widows in the midst thereof. This is the same thing we're talking about. The Bible tells you. They are conspiring to do evil. And they were more than 40 which had made this conspiracy. This is in the book of Acts. This is why they take that term and they flip it to try to scare people. When you have the knowledge, you have the wisdom, you have the understanding through the word of God, where God himself said unto the prophet Jeremiah, he found a conspiracy. God found a conspiracy. And we just saw what conspiracy means. You're not afraid of the different thing they try to do to you. You're not afraid. This is why the word tells us that perfect love casts out all fear. All fear. Oh, you're judgmental. You're absolutely right. I'm judgmental. You're a Bible thumper. You're absolutely right. I thump my Bible. And I also have a sword too. So what you want me to do? You want me to thump my Bible? Or you want me to put my sword out? You see what I'm saying? Now, going back over to what we was looking at, we're going to listen to this, and then I'm going to pause it, give some commentary, and we're going to make some points with some other stuff. Let's get it.
Where many of you know, in 2007, he was busted for sex trafficking, and that quietly went away. He got out of prison, and then it seems like he started a couple of new companies, one of which actually targeted young children in the Virgin Islands specifically. Whitney Webb is the
targeted children in the Virgin Islands specifically. Now, you could say that Mr. Epstein was targeting these children because he is what he is, right? We know what he is. I'm not going to say it because, they'll flag the video, and I don't feel like turning it up right now. I'm going to turn up in a different way. But is it deeper than that? Was it just because of his issue, his sin, his sickness? Or is there a connection with artificial intelligence, transhumanism, the New World Order, and the mark of the beast? That would be crazy, right? Well, they say truth is stranger than fiction. They say that truth is stranger than fiction.
Investigative journalist who's been covering this story, and I want to deep dive this with her today on the show. Whitney, welcome back to the show.
Hey, great to be here.
So this is a crazy story because we know about the sex trafficking.
Oh, come on. Here we go. Y'all give me a second.
In 2007. Then after he gets out, he turns his attention to the U.S. Virgin Islands and starts a new company, which I don't think many Americans have any idea about this part of the story. And we're just now starting to learn more and more about this. Can you take us through sort of the high level first, and then we'll dive into the nitty gritty, disgusting details?
Sure. So the company you're talking about here is called Southern Trust, and he had a few other companies tied up with it, including a bank. That were based on the Virgin Islands after he was arrested for sex trafficking in Palm Beach. And so after that happened, he seemed, like you said, to have directed his attention more to the Virgin Islands. And so this company in particular, Southern Trust, was created in 2012, and it describes itself as offering cutting-edge consulting services.
Okay, we're going to pause it. Southern Trust, which would be located on the island of St. Thomas, is applying for benefits under category 2A or IIA as a designated service business. And once it gets up and running, it will provide cutting-edge consulting services to companies around the world, relying in part upon the use of biomedical and financial informatics. Biomedical. The client base for this company is going to range from individual consumers to scientists to investment companies looking to create new strategies using what's called mind information, which is, you're going to see your DNA. I want to get a few housekeeping out of the way and on the record before Mr. Epstein explains to you exactly what it is they're going to be doing. It's interesting because in our last video, we spoke about how the Hebrew Israelite kings of Britain, they sold us out. They helped to sell us out, Psalms 83. And people talk about Jeffrey Epstein and what he did, but he didn't do it by himself. For the leaders of the Virgin Islands who are black, at least in skin color, to team up with Epstein, knowing what type of person he is, it says more about them than it says about Mr. Epstein. Y'all always want to point fingers at white people like Mr. Epstein and the Bill Gates, but you excuse our own people that look like us, that do more devious and devilish stuff than Mr. Epstein. They not only knew what Mr. Epstein was doing, they allowed him to come over and set this business up, knowing what type of person he is. So who's worse? They know what type of person he is. So who's worse? So what are they doing? You always excuse or want to try to excuse black people and hold the white man accountable for everything without holding our own people and, most importantly, ourselves accountable. And then you wonder why Uncle is molesting. Can I say that word? Uncle is messing with the nieces and the nephews. Because a lot of times something happened to him or auntie doing it. Something happened to them and nobody addressed it. Nobody said anything. Oh, keep it a secret. No, we can't let this get out. It's crazy. It's crazy.
And as a DNA data mining firm that was trying to find clients specifically among big banks and big pharma, it described itself as sort of a biomedical Google that was trying to use people's genetic sequencing to determine what drugs would work best on them and all sorts of...
use their DNA to find out what drugs would work best on them. The changing of the DNA. It's going to get deeper and more creepier than this. Jeffrey Epstein had a Frankenstein-like plan to analyze human DNA in the U.S. Virgin Islands, and it reportedly pulled in $200 million. I don't know about you, but I could use that $200 million right about now. You see, the wicked, they get all this money to do wickedness. This is what the Bible tells us. This is what the Bible tells us. But hold on, because change is coming. We gonna get ours in due time. It's gonna be in righteousness.
Odd things, and even people in the testimony that he gave to this Economic Development Commission in the Virgin Islands were, very awestruck, I guess you could say, by how, unusual the company was framed as being and what its objectives essentially were.
But they still allowed it, though.
And what's particularly important is that in a lawsuit that was filed by Denise George, who is the same Attorney General of the Virgin Islands that was fired after filing the Epstein JP Morgan case, she had another case targeting Epstein a few years prior. That lawsuit, and also a lawsuit filed by the New York Times, referred to Southern Trust as being a key part of Jeffrey Epstein's criminal activities. But as I said earlier, it was founded in 2012. So this is well after he was busted for sex trafficking the first time, and it was not a part of what he was charged with in 2019. So it seems like the Virgin Islands was really the only entity interested in going after him for this particular company, which, as we've mentioned, was based there. So what's interesting is if you look at the testimony, it doesn't explicitly talk about children, but in his testimony to this commission, he says what he wants to do is essentially engage children early on to train them in programming and to run these artificial intelligence servers that are going to power these algorithms.
I'm getting chills right now as I'm listening to this again. The man went over there to do what they call DNA mining, DNA harvesting, get their DNA code, and also to get these children at a young age so they could run these systems, these artificial intelligence systems that are going to feed the algorithm for the artificial intelligence to ultimately become what? AGI, artificial general intelligence, which is, if you don't see how artificial intelligence plays a major, it is at the core of what we know as a new order. The machine is living. It's spiritual, y'all. This is how Satan is playing God, being everywhere at once, being omnipotent, omnipresent, through technology, through artificial intelligence, through the World Wide Web, and everything being connected. And then we're going to bring in what? We're going to bring in a digital currency. We're going to know everything about you. And then we're going to have your biometric DNA code on file in the digital format. So we're going to know every single thing about you before you know every single thing about you. And then we're also going to be able to access it instantaneously through what we know as the internet, information highway, and so on, and so on, and so on. Now I want to go back so you can hear that one more time. Go back just a little bit.
Particular company, which, as we've mentioned, was based there. So what's interesting is if you look at the testimony, it doesn't explicitly talk about children, but in his testimony to this commission, he says what he wants to do is essentially engage children early on to train them in programming and to run these artificial intelligence servers.
To train them in programming and so they can run these artificial intelligence servers for the AI algorithm.
That are going to power these algorithms. And so the way he apparently did that was by funding a slew of initiatives targeting youth in the Virgin Islands, specifically mentally ill youth and underprivileged and poor children. And
he targeted mentally ill, those with autism, as you're going to see, those are the poor black children and black children that are in poverty, enticing them with money. Enticing them with money and these different things. Let that sink in. Let that sink in and let it tie in with all our previous videos with the stuff that we've been talking about. Now, why are they, and I say they because you should understand what I mean when I say they, why are they specifically targeting black children? And she's going to say it at the end of the video just in case you think it's something that I'm saying because I'm black. No, she did the research, not me. I did my research, but she did this research and came to this conclusion. She's going to say it in the video just in case you think I'm being biased. But why are they targeting black children? Because they understand, as we spoke about before, Africa is the future. Black people will rise up once again, and that's who will be predominantly ruling during the time of Jacob's trouble. Why? Because the white population, they cannot make enough babies to be able to even catch up with the black population or overall what we call the people of color population, which includes your Latinos and so on and so on and so on. We covered all that. This is nothing that I'm making up, nothing that I have to make up, nothing that I'm forcing. This is people like her that are white that are saying this out of their own mouths.
A lot of the those activities are eerily similar to the same ways that he recruited minors, underage girls in the United States, targeting underprivileged, economically underprivileged teenage girls and gifted children in music and the arts. And there's been no interest really in looking into this story among mainstream media, because why would someone, a known pedophile, be engaged in this type of activity. And we know now from the recent Wall Street Journal revelations that prominent banks like the Edmund de Rothschild Group was giving Southern Trust millions and millions of dollars in contracts.
But they won't give you nothing to help you out with it. They'll watch you struggle and get your bills, and you live on the street before they really help you out. But they'll give money to finance their evil, though. I've come across some crazy stuff, and I've come across so much crazy stuff that it takes a lot to shock me. And when I first listened to this video and watched this video, it was one of those things where it shocked me. And I think it was because of how everything was connected with everything that we've been talking about, artificial intelligence, AGI, and so on and so on and so on and so on.
It's just a very disturbing and overlooked story, and might shed some light on why the U.S. Virgin Islands, unlike a lot of jurisdictions in the U.S., are interested in going after a lot of the powerful people that enabled Epstein, particularly billionaires and some of these big banks.
Exactly.
It's crazy. It's truly disturbing. I mean, absolutely disturbing. It sounds like something out of like a Bond villain. Like if you were to write this as part of a movie, people would say, no, this is ridiculous. You're going to have a billionaire who's going to go to the Virgin Islands. He's going to seek out children in order to do biomedical research, implanting things in their brains. Yeah. And even in his testimony, I've gone through these documents that you've sent over.
He just gave you he just said something without saying it. Implanting things in their brain. Now, she doesn't mention that. He just mentioned it by the wayside. Implanting things in their brain. So he is telling you even deeper stuff with what they had going on. Oh, what is Elon Musk also doing?
He talks about autistic children specifically. I think like a quarter of them were autistic as well. And did any of the parents
kids on the spectrum? Yeah.
Yeah. So looking specifically for kids on the spectrum, did you get any insights into why he was doing that?
They don't give any insight, but I'm gonna tell you a little bit what I do know. When they studied the brain waves of autistic children, and even though they cannot, how do I explain it in simple terms? Even though they cannot express themselves physically the way that we can express ourselves, their brain activity registers a lot of times higher in intelligence and other things than it does with a person that can express themselves regularly. And when you're dealing with stuff like that, you're dealing with the spiritual. You're dealing with the spiritual. We know the importance of the brain.
I think maybe what he was looking for were, I think people are probably familiar with the sort of savant characteristics of some autistic people. And he may have been looking for children and teens that sort of had those unusual abilities. But it's definitely very disturbing. And something he talks about in his testimony to this Virgin Island Commission is the idea of how he aggressively wants to genetically sequence the islander population because it's such an isolated community. And
he wants to genetically sequence the islander population. That's why we brought up the demographics of the islander population, which is mostly black. He wants to get their DNA code.
And then talks about how those that genetic information can be used to determine how to educate these children that he wants to recruit to us.
You need to hear that one more time.
Is the idea of how he aggressively wants to genetically sequence the islander population because it's such an isolated community, and then talks about how those that genetic information can be used to determine how to educate these children that he wants to recruit to us.
He wanted to get their genetic information, sequence their DNA, meaning get their DNA code and know everything about them, more than they know about themselves, and use that DNA information to educate them what? Based on their DNA. So like, okay, I got your DNA code. I can read it like a book and I know everything about you. So I can manipulate this to get you to do what I want you to do because I know what you're more prone to do. Now I can create a educational program, a educational MK Ultra program that gets you to learn what I want you to learn and therefore do what I want you to do. Oh my God. Y'all know I've been preaching this stuff for a long time. There is many things in our DNA. And the main thing in our DNA that Satan is trying to change, get mankind to rewrite, is the gospel of Christ. This is why most people have another gospel. They have another Christ because their DNA has really already been rewritten. They have technically, on the spiritual level, already taken the mark of the beast because the mark of the beast is first and foremost spiritual. Everything starts in the spirit first and then it is manifested what? Physically. Christ is the word. The word what? Manifests in the flesh. You were not here. I was not here. You were not seen. And then you were manifested in the flesh when your father or your dad went into your mom. And then conception happened. And then boom, here you are.
Ostensibly work for his company in coding and programming. But again, as I mentioned earlier, he's targeting specifically underprivileged children, which is very disturbing in light of the similarities between that and what he was doing as part of his sex trafficking operation with Ghislaine Maxwell.
So there's the Epstein piece of this, of course, but then there's, he wasn't operating in a vacuum. You mentioned some of the associations that he's had with the different banks and the funding and sort of thing. But where do these tentacles lead? We know that the Virgin Islands has been struggling to subpoena Larry Page, Google's Larry Page.
Now, why is this important also? I told you just to get crazy. I'm gonna make these connections for you as we go. That's why I gotta keep on pausing it. I know some of you, just let it run through. No, I got to give the commentary so you can understand it from a biblical perspective, from the perspective of the Bible, so you can see what God wants you to see. Please let me do my job. If you want to pause it and go watch the video without me giving commentary and pausing it, then go right here. But let me do my job as a prophet, as a pastor, please. Because I've been talking about this stuff and showing you this stuff. Y'all know that all you got to do is go back and watch the videos. I've been speaking about these same people. Now, what is the connection with Google's Larry Page and Jeffrey Epstein lawsuit against JP Morgan? What is Google's Larry Page connection? Well, we heard about Elon Musk and what Larry Page said he wanted to do. We're going to get to that for those who don't remember.
As part of the Epstein lawsuit, you've written extensively about JP Morgan Chase, of course, and Jamie Dimon putting up money, making sure that they were funding. So do we know specifically about this Southern Trust, like what other people were actively involved in it? You mentioned the Rothschilds, but anybody else, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation? I saw those names, of course, popping up again in the testimony.
So the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Now, I want to go ahead and yeah, we're going to go ahead and get it. So let's go back just a little bit so you can see these people. This dude right here, he is the CEO, or I don't know if he's the acting CEO of JP Morgan right now. But matter of fact, we just find out. It's the power of the internet when you use it the right way. Who is the CEO of JP Morgan? I think it's the same dude. Yeah, that dude right there. So he is still the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, that is directly connected with Jeffrey Epstein, this DNA harvesting, this mark of the beast stuff, right? Now, can I make a direct connection? Absolutely. I can. Remember who they are primarily targeting. I'm not saying they're not targeting white children. I'm not saying that. But who are they primarily targeting? Black children. And we know, I mean, if you don't know, most of your Caribbean island people, black people and everything, they trace their roots back to what we call Hebrew Israelites. Most of them, a lot of them are Hebrew Israelites. Whether they know it or don't know it. Caribbean islands and so on and so on. We know this because we study this and everything. I know it because I know how from, Ireland, Scotland, when some of my people, they got up out of there, they went down by way of Jamaica, and then from Jamaica came to the Americas and stuff like that. But keep this guy in mind because we're going to go over here. He's connected with this also. Let me make this connection for you. Now, this is 4 years ago, and I've shown you this video in a completely different sermon that had nothing to do with this. It says, Jamie Dimon answers questions about whether J.P. Morgan benefited from slavery. And that's him right there. That's him right there. They know all this. They know all this. This stuff gets deep. It gets so deep it gets scary sometimes. This is your connection right here. This is why J.P. Morgan, one of the reasons why J.P. Morgan was financing Jeffrey Epstein, and that company he had that was getting this DNA data because they're looking for something. What are they looking for? What are they looking for, and what are they specifically trying to get from the DNA of black people? Why is the worst medical experiments done in the history of the world is on black people? The Tuskegee syphilis experiment, and we can go down the list. It's always something dealing with black people. And specifically, it's always something dealing with Hebrew Israelites. Let's get it.
Do you believe that your bank benefited from slavery in some way in terms of its business practices? If so, raise your hand. If you do not believe...
Y'all hold on, because this thing want to act crazy now. It want to act crazy. Like it's buffering and stuff.
If you do not believe that it benefited, raise your hand. Let the record reflect that all but Mr. Dimon raised a hand. Thank you. Let's move on. I'm concerned now about the raise that B of A has indicated it will accord.
Okay. So I just want you to see that part. Jamie Dimon answers questions about whether J.P. Morgan benefited from slavery. You can go read the reports. They're already out there. They did find out, and we already knew it, that J.P. Morgan benefited from slavery with loans. They allowed the slave owners to do loans against the slaves, which enabled J.P. Morgan to get very, very, very rich, very, very, very fast. Not saying they didn't have money back then, but we know the basis of the stock market also. Wall Street was originally a slave market, and it still is today. Fast forward, it seems that J.P. Morgan and Jamie Dimon are still benefiting from it in a unrighteous way, doing stuff that they got no business messing with. No business messing with. Because the same company, J.P. Morgan, that benefited from slavery, they are taking that money that they got from slavery and using it to finance people like Jeffrey Epstein, and he's gone, or they say he's gone. Who knows if he really died or not? They could have faked his death. I mean, who really knows? But even if he is dead and gone, there are countless others that are doing the same thing, whether they are in the spotlight or not. I personally believe that the heat got a little bit too hot, and Jeffrey Epstein was their fall guy. Was their fall guy to take some of the heat off to some of the other stuff they had going on. I believe and I know that there are people in this world who make Jeffrey Epstein look like a child in regards to the evil that they do. So again, Jamie Dimon and his company, JP Morgan, who benefited from slavery, they've now taken that slave money. They use it to finance companies that Jeffrey Epstein had and others to do this DNA harvesting, because I would do DNA harvesting from these black children to run their artificial intelligence AI algorithms? Or is it deeper than that? So let me close this out. And then we go to this video right here. This is Larry Page talking about AI in 2000. Let's see what he got. Let's see what he has to say.
We had the ultimate search engine. It would understand everything on the web. It would understand, exactly what you wanted, and it would give you the right thing. And that's obviously artificial intelligence would be the ultimate version of Google. So we had the ultimate search engine. Artificial intelligence would be the ultimate search engine of Google. This is back in 2000. 2000. I was doing illegal stuff. I wasn't thinking about this. The ultimate search engine would be dealing with what? Artificial intelligence. And for those who have went back and watched the previous videos where we talked about this stuff, I showed you where they said it. The goal of Google from the beginning was to create and bring forth this digital God. When was Google created? 1998. 1998. And then 2 years later, you have Larry Page speaking about artificial intelligence, or AGI specifically. And Larry Page is connected to what? This whole situation right here. Now, some of you remember this video, this clip we used in our previous sermons, but let's get it.
Larry Page and I used to be close friends, and I would stay at his house in Palo Alto, and I would talk to him late into the night about AI safety. And at least my perception was that Larry was not taking AI safety seriously enough.
What did he say about it?
He really seemed to be one sort of digital superintelligence, basically digital God, if you will. Digital superintelligence, basically digital God. Digital superintelligence, basically digital God, if you.
They're telling you what they are doing right in front of your faces. But when you speak about this to the average professing believer, no matter they claim to be a Hebrew Israelite, Christian, whatever, they just don't get it. They just don't see it. And it amazes me. It amazes me, like, oh, no, I ain't got time for all that. Or it just goes right over their head. Maybe it's not meant for them to know.
If you will, as soon as possible.
He wanted that?
Yes. He's made many public statements over the years that the whole goal of Google is what's called AGI, Artificial General Intelligence, or Artificial Superintelligence.
The whole goal of Google is to create a digital God. A digital God. This ain't no different from what's in the Bible, where they're creating gods into themselves. Doesn't the book of Daniel say something about the Antichrist shall exalt a God that nobody, I'm paraphrasing, that nobody knows about? A God that even the ancestors and didn't even, fool with. Let me get that scripture, bro, real fast. Y'all give me a second. Let's go to Bible Gateway. Let me see. And in his estate, I think it is. Yeah, Daniel 11:38. But in his estate shall he honor the God of forces. So he's going to come in and act like he's honoring the Most High, right? But then what it says, and a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver and with precious stones and pleasant things. So he's going to be honoring our God, but he's going to be mixing the two. This alien God, and I believe it has something to do with artificial intelligence. This God, this digital God that they are creating. Because if you don't see how artificial intelligence plays a major role in end time prophecy, you might want to brush up on it real fast, especially with so much talk about digital currency. Oh, digital currency, nobody won't be able to buy or sell. But do you understand the inner workings of it? Let me just show you. You type in something simple. All you gotta do is use the information that's out there, and what they don't give you, you're still gonna get it through the Spirit, because the Spirit is gonna lead you. They can't hide stuff. They can try to hide stuff, but they can't hide everything, because God is gonna bring it out. Blockchain technology. Let's type in run by AI. Just keep it simple, AI. What is the use case of AI and blockchain? By combining AI-driven predictive analytics with blockchains, companies can gain better insights into demand patterns, optimize inventory management, and make data-driven decisions to minimize costs. Is AI involved in cryptocurrency? The use of AI crypto tokens has now become quite prevalent in the crypto world. These tokens are being used for several purposes, such as blockchain governance, decentralized marketplaces, and portfolio management. How is AI used in Bitcoin? Tell you the same thing. AI has always been involved in this stuff. IBM.com, blockchain and artificial intelligence. It's always been in it. They didn't tell us. They don't have no reason to. Like, they would be like, most of y'all are not going to understand it anyway, so we're not going to tell you what's really going on. Now, we know for a fact, right, that the world is going 100% to digital currency. We know they're trying to do away with physical money. We all know this. And now we see how a person will not be able to buy or sell, whether they are small, great, rich, or poor, free or bond, they will not be able to sell without the mark of the beast. They will not be able to be a part of what? The economy, the world economy that is going to be digital, which is, what's the heart of it? What is the heart of this digital currency that's coming? Artificial intelligence, or shall we say AGI, artificial general intelligence, which is going to be running this system. That's the information that's going to be, that's the physical system that the spiritual wickedness in high places is going to be using to play God like they know everything. They will have instantaneous access to mounds and mounds of data, mounds and mounds of information, mounds and mounds of knowledge, in combination with the knowledge, the wisdom, and understanding that they already have. These beings that we are fighting have been around for a very, very long time. They're already wise, which is why the Bible tells you to be wise as serpents, but harmless as doves. Christ is telling you that they are wise. He's not telling you that they are stupid. He's telling you specifically that they are wise. They are very, very wise. And if you're not careful, they're going to defeat you. They ain't got to pick up a gun. They get somebody else to pick up the gun, or they get you to pick up the gun and kill yourself. Now they got artificial intelligence in this physical world. And it's only going to get smarter and smarter and smarter and smarter to the point where they create a digital god. What happened when you merge the two? What happened when you merge a digital god with a literal god? Let's go back over here.
No, and I agree with him that there's great potential for good, but there's also potential for bad. And so if you've got some radical new technology, you want to try to take the set of actions that maximize the probability it will do good and minimize the probability it will do bad things.
Yes.
It can't just be hell for leather. Let's just go, barreling forward and, hope for the best. And then at one point, I said, well, what about, we're going to make sure humanity's okay here. And then he called me a speciesist.
So basically what Larry Page said about mankind, who is made in the image of God, capital G, of course. F mankind. That's pretty much what he said. Because, Elon said, well, what about humanity? What about mankind? And Larry was like, oh, you're a species. Code word for F mankind. I don't care about them. We're going to do what we do. Why? Because they all on the same team anyway. They play like they're not, but they're all on the same team. We know what recently happened to him. We definitely know what's going on with him. The kingdom of Satan is not divided. It looked like it's divided, but it's not. It looked like it's divided, but it's not. And all these people like Carson Tucker, Elon Musk, Larry Page, the Epsteins of the world, the what's that dude name? Jamie Dimons of the world, the Rothschilds of the world, and so on and so on. They're all on the same team, fighting against the Most High, fighting against us, fighting against our people, our physical people, and most importantly, our spiritual people. Whether they be Jew or Gentile. If they have the Spirit of God, Spirit of Christ in them, then God sees them as a Jew inwardly, because Christ is in them, who is the Jew of Jews. No matter how much you don't like it. So we got that. Now we're going to jump over here and then we'll go back to, matter of fact, let's save that. Let's go back over here.
Do we know specifically about this Southern Trust, like what other people were actively involved in it? You mentioned the Rothschilds, but anybody else, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation? I saw those names, of course, popping up again in the testimony.
So the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, I didn't see pop up in this testimony specifically, but it does pop up in some of his simultaneous efforts to finance education, not just in the Virgin Islands, but in the United States.
Sorry, let me clarify. It wasn't in the testimony, but it was as part of this education process in the Virgin Islands. Yes.
Yeah, so he was specifically trying to target a lot of the same areas that Bill Gates's philanthropy hits, not just science, but also education. And a lot of these old press releases refer to Epstein as a prominent education patron and things of that nature. And, in some of my past work, I was able to show that back in 1998, he was going to places like Russia, looking at high schools, visiting high schools and apparently elementary schools, looking for kids that were talented in science and math. And some of these pictures of him in these Russian classrooms, the only kid that's there looks like he's 8 or 9. He's just a single kid alone with Epstein and some of these other scientists that he was close to in the room. And, what it really disturbs me that no one has really bothered to look at this or scrutinize this in any capacity.
Because they're all on the same team. And even this dude right here that run Redacted, he's on the same team with them. This man's not a believer. He's anti-war. He's anti-war to the upteenth percent. which means he's anti-Bible. Because the Word of God tells us there's a time and place for everything. He don't believe that there should be any war. Sound like a person that wants a new world order. They want worldwide peace. They can deceive y'all, but they ain't going to deceive me because I'm walking in the Spirit. As long as I'm walking in the Spirit, you can't be deceived. See, people all on the same team, but I listen to them because they're going to give me what I need. They're going to give me what I need because it belongs to us anyway. They just feeding the information and making our job easier.
Capacity. And as far as Google and like Larry Page and Sergey Brin, so both of the Google co-founders are being subpoenaed by the U.S. Virgin Islands in connection with their investigations into Epstein. Larry Page is apparently so concerned about being served papers that he can't be found. They're trying to go through Alphabet, Google's parent company, because he's still on the board of Alphabet, to try and get access to him that way, but he really does not want to have.
Larry Page, the guy we just looked at. You heard what Elon Musk said about him. He wants to create this digital god. That was the goal. That's the goal of Google, was the goal of Google from the beginning.
To testify in this case, and that should be really telling. And in the context of Southern Trust, as I mentioned earlier, this was a company based around data mining. So what's particularly odd is that in New Albany, Ohio, the New Albany company, which Epstein created on Leslie Wexner's behalf, was a partner in and invested money into, is the owner of the land on which a massive Google data center sits. Did Southern Trust have access to that information? What was going on there? There hasn't been a lot of scrutiny into that either. And it seems like, knowing that what we know, for example, about Sergey Brin being a regular visitor to Epstein's townhouse and all of this other stuff, it's certainly looking quite disturbing, especially when you consider that Google as a company has had intelligence connections from its inception and throughout its existence as a company.
Google has been connected with the CIA from the beginning. Oh, that's interesting. Huh, that's very interesting. CIA, COINTEL, Pro, let's say Black Messiah. Let's see something. Let's blow it up. And they do this stuff to throw people out. They make it seem like, oh, it's about the Black Panthers. It wasn't about the Black Panthers, man. That's surface stuff. It is about coming against Christ. Christ is what we call Black Messiah. That's what it's about. This is all to throw people off so they could want to be a part of the Black Panthers. The Black Panthers ain't got nothing to do with the Bible. The Black Panthers ain't got nothing to do nothing with the Word of God. They're fighting against Christ. Remember, we are believers. So don't get sucked off into all this other stuff. Oh, COINTELPRO, the Black Panthers, stop this, stop that. Red herring. Diversion. You got to understand the psychology of people. When you tell, oh my God. Let me break it down for you real simple. And y'all will understand this. Most of the time, when you tell a person they can't have something, what do? They want it that much more. So what do? You can't have Black Panthers, even though they're the ones that helped set it up, but we ain't gonna get into all that. You can't have Black Panthers. We're gonna take it away. What does that make people want to do? They make them want to be a part of it, not realizing that the movement that they are getting into ain't really what they think it is. The same thing happened with Black Lives Matter. You had people that are professing Christians that are black, that have been Christians for all these years, Christian follow Christ, right? And they got sucked off into Black Lives Matter. And I was going in. Y'all remember I was going in. Some of you were going in. And people were coming at me. I'm speaking specifically for me because this is my ministry, right? Give my testimony. And they were coming at me and y'all saw what they were saying and stuff. And then come to find out what? That the whole thing was a sham. The whole Black Lives Matter movement was a sham from the beginning. Run by sodomite women where they released the face of it. Purposely set up to come against the what? The straight black man. Because a straight black man is a threat to what? The agenda of the New World Order. Black Lives Matter, perfect example. Everybody jumped on it. You know, I say everybody, I don't mean everybody, but you get my point. Everybody jumped on it, and then come to find out it wasn't what they thought it was. Black Panthers people were jumping on it, come to find out it's not what they really think it is. But you take it away, you tell a person they can't have something, and because on the psychological level, something clicks, they go and try to get it that much more. Now, today it may not be the Black Panthers, but it's other stuff. But let me open this up real fast. And some of you know this, but we got to bring it up just to make that connection. I don't think that one is the one I'm looking for. There's one that actually says it. Let me see if I can find it real fast. Just so you can see it. If not, we'll move on. That's definitely too small. Let's try this one. Let's bring it up. These are coming up too small, so we're not even gonna. Let me zoom in just to see. Nah, we're not gonna fool with it. But y'all get the point. You can look it up. We've covered this before. The documents are out there, and it specifically says to stop the rise of a black messiah. That's what they said. You can go read the documents. I just can't find it. I can't find it right now. All the ones that are coming up is too small. And then that's blurry. I can't really see it, but y'all get the point. So we go back over here. CIA is tied in with Google. Google is tied in with artificial intelligence, and artificial intelligence is tied in with what? The root of the artificial intelligence and where they're getting their data to feed the machine is coming from black people. For many, many reasons. They're not only feeding the information around the world to these artificial intelligence systems, I should say, because you got several of them and they're all communicating together and they're gonna merge into one. But not only the data around the world that's getting millisecond by millisecond, and whatever measurement of time is smaller than that, but the DNA data is in the system too, through the medical system. You go give your blood, stuff like that. They get that. They process it. Boom. You give your DNA for ancestry tests. They got you. They put you in the system. They got your DNA. They know more about you than you know about yourself on a DNA level. They can take your DNA. They can clone you. We know they can clone your voice. We know they can clone an image of you. They can clone so much. They can take pictures of you and take your voice and run it through the artificial intelligence system and create a digital copy of you that nobody won't be able to tell the difference because it's your words. I've seen it, and it's scary. I've seen it. And for those of you who remember, I said a long time ago, before I knew what I knew, and I was just speaking based on, I'm not going to say it was a prophecy because I don't know. But I was speaking based on the wisdom that God had given me and what I believe at the time he was impressing in my spirit for me to speak. And I said that what happens when the catching away happens, and then they have digital copies of us or clones of us already ready to bring out and explain what happened. So, for example, I got over 1,000 YouTube videos. All they gotta do is run my videos, because YouTube is owned by Google, which is connected to the CIA, run it through their system, and create a digital copy of my voice. You won't be able to tell the difference because it's my words. The only way you will be able to tell it's not me is through the Spirit. This is one reason why he told you that you got to try the Spirit by the Spirit, as we say. And again, what I was saying in that video, I can't remember what video it was, but some of you remember where I said that. It was years ago. They have a digital copy or a clone of me. They got my voice. As a matter of fact, I think in that video, when I'm explaining it, I couldn't see it clearly, so I was just giving bits and pieces. But now I see it clearly now. And I remember saying, like, I'm explaining it the best that I can. They got a digital copy or a clone of me, and they bring forth this clone that's explaining away the rapture, the catching away, and people are believing that it's me. I'm like, hey, I'm on the ship. Everything's okay, guys. Boom, boom, boom. Let me show you I'm on the ship. And people believe, oh yeah, that's so and so. That's staying focused for Jesus. He posted about Christ every day, so we're gonna believe him because hey, he was posting about this stuff every day. And now look, he's on the spaceship. He's walking around the spaceship. Or maybe they have a digital clone of me walking around and with the people and stuff and going to everybody that I know, like, it's okay, guys, it's okay. Deception at an all-time high. Some of you remember that. I can barely remember it, but the Lord is bringing back enough where I can speak about it. But this is where we're at. And it's only going to get worse. This is why Christ told us that if he didn't shorten days, that no flesh would be saved. And this is why he also told us that he was going to bring a strong delusion upon the children of disobedience. The word also tells us that if it were possible, a lot of people get that scripture messed up, but let's make sure we get it right. He says that if it were possible, even the very elect would be deceived. That's how the deception is going to be at an all-time high. And now we are seeing, and we have saw, and we're going to continue to see how artificial intelligence plays a major role and part in the strong delusion that God is bringing upon this world and the deception that God is allowing to happen for his will to be fulfilled. Inside the secret network behind mass surveillance, endless war, and Skynet. You know about Skynet. All you got to think about Terminator. Oh, Terminator ain't real. Oh, yes, he is. And she.
And you even have people like Julian Assange pointing out that Google is not what it seems and is essentially operating as its own intelligence agency and as a front for Hillary Clinton's State Department at the time that he wrote that. Wrote a book.
Was it 500 million that they took from the CIA? And of course, and the back end infrastructure, of course, of Google intimately tied to the intelligence community in the United States.
Right. And at the same time, Epstein and also Leslie Wexner have their intelligence ties and ties also to criminal activity that I covered extensively in my book. So why are these actors coming together, and what's going on? What was going on with this data mining firm targeting children, and genetic information of people in the U.S. Virgin Islands and all of this stuff in the Google data center? I mean, there's a lot of unanswered questions here, but I mean, considering what's coming out, it definitely seems increasingly disturbing. And another thing that I found really telling. Oh, sorry. Mm-hmm.
No, go, please. I don't want to. Another thing that you found telling. I don't want to interrupt that.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say that in the testimony, there's a particular reference Epstein makes to Africa. And he says, I do a lot of work in Africa. And he refers to Africa as fertile ground for experimentation. And
Let's go back.
The center, I mean, there's a lot of unanswered questions here. But I mean, considering what's coming out, it definitely seems increasingly disturbing. And another thing that I found really telling. Oh, sorry. Mm-hmm.
No, go, please. I don't want to. another thing that you found telling. I don't want to interrupt that.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say that in the testimony, there's a particular reference Epstein makes to Africa. And he says, I do a lot of work in Africa. And he refers to Africa as fertile ground for experimentation. And so,
fertile ground for experimentation. Think about a man going into a woman. Oh, she's fertile. I can birth my children through this fertile woman. No man wants a woman that's infertile. I mean, that's just common sense. You would know why a man wouldn't want an infertile woman. So in the minds of Jeffrey Epstein and the rest of these people, Africa is fertile ground for his experimentation. His DNA experimentation, his DNA mining, and the education of a lot of these African children to create and continue to feed the AI algorithms for them to create what? A AGI, or a digital god. She said it. Whitney Webb, author, researcher, and journalist. If you don't believe what I'm saying, then go debunk what she said. But you can't debunk the Bible. You see, you ain't gonna get this stuff from too many places. You mostly probably ain't gonna get it from these church buildings, the so-called church buildings. They're not gonna touch this stuff. They want to keep people in bondage to paying your tithes. Not the stuff that relates to Bible prophecy right now, so we know what's going on and how close we are to getting to hell off of this hell rock. Or I should say, getting to heaven off of this hell rock.
So it turns out that Epstein was a major funder of this weird artificial intelligence lab being created in Ethiopia that's tied to the scientist who's overtly transhumanist that he funded extensively named Benjamin Goertzel.
How much crazier can it get? Are you listening?
Is, for example, head of Humanity Plus, formerly the World Transhumanist Association, which is an entity that Epstein funded in addition to funding Goertzel's own work. And Goertzel is also the chief scientist at Hanson Robotics, which has produced these human-like robots, the best well-known probably being Sophia, the robot that was, for example, granted citizenship.
Yeah, see, you see how this is connected? This ain't no game. And then they're going to tell you something even crazier. I'm going to pause when we get to it, about the WHO organization.
By Mohammed bin Salman at a time when one of his close advisors was Jeffrey Epstein. Again, very, very odd activity there. So as far as what was going on in Ethiopia at the time that Epstein was investing in this AI lab, and backing Goertzel, Goertzel was teaming up with this blockchain company called Cardano that's pretty well known in the cryptocurrency space. And they were specifically seeking to offer digital ID. Well, it's already happened. They gave a digital ID essentially to 5 million Ethiopian school children with the intention of expanding that. And the whole intention of this is to harvest data from these children. They explicitly say that. So, and even in other documents, Goertzel essentially says that this data is being used to feed, the AI that powers robots like Sophia at hand.
This, oh my God, as I listen to it again, it's still, I ain't been shocked in a long time. Like, it's so shocking because this video like connects everything we've been talking about in the last, really, we've been talking about it since the beginning of this ministry. We touching this stuff. But recently, these videos we've been dropping about artificial intelligence, New World Order and everything. Man, I need a second. Digital ID, digital wallet, digital currency, to purposely give it to them so they can purposely gather information from them to feed the artificial intelligence beast system to give rise to what they call AGI, artificial general intelligence, a digital god. And I told y'all time and time again, digital is code word for spiritual. When you're talking about the digital world, you're really talking about the spiritual world. Because it's a person's spirit that's being imprinted. This is an imprintation of a person's spirit that's recorded and then played at a later time. Matter of fact, this was aired May 13th. Today is May 16th.
And robotics and stuff. So what exactly is going on here, and what are these transhumanists up to, and why are they so overtly interested in children? And what was Jeffrey Epstein, who was interested in children in numerous disturbing ways, interested in doing? I think this is something that needs to be scrutinized, because it seems like Epstein was a child predator in multiple senses.
Do you think that we'll get answers from this lawsuit, what's specifically happening in the U.S. Virgin Islands? Because I have a couple of questions about this, like the families, right? It seems like he was targeting underprivileged families, children specifically, going to Africa. Very easy to kind of hide what you're up to because we're not going to hear about it. It's not like it's in Georgetown in Washington, D.C., where he's doing these experiments.
Right.
And so then the families, maybe they're paid off, maybe they're quiet. Have we heard from any of the families of these children who've come forward and part of this investigation, or are they kind of quiet?
No, I don't think any of them have really come forward, but if they're, it would be hard to imagine a way for them to do so. As one example, as part of the sex trafficking operation, Epstein and Jean-Luc Brunel were alleged to have paid off poor parents in France, so in order for Epstein to sexually abuse their young children on his birthday. And even despite that being a public story and being in court documents, that family has never come forward to testify.
Because they end up signing documents where they can't say nothing because they receive money. They sold their children for some damn dollars. If they do say something, then they're going to kill them. They threaten them. You sign these documents. You agree to it. It is what it is. You know what we're capable of. And if you cross us, then we got something for you. The people that do this, they don't have the Spirit of God dwelling in them. And they're not trying to get the Spirit of God. They want to get out of the situation how they want to get out of it, but they don't want to get out of the situation through the gospel of Christ that can break that NDA or that blood covenant, blood contract that they have signed to give their children over to be taken advantage of by the likes of Epstein and so on and so on and so on and so on. They're just as guilty. I would probably do something to my children before I allow somebody else to do something to my children in that regard. If I had the power to do it, I guess we all finna go. But I'm not finna just volunteer my children over for some damn dead presidents on some damn money that ain't worth the toilet paper that we wipe our butt with. The poop that I put out is more valuable than the American dollar. What comes out of me is more valuable than the American dollar. What comes out of you is more valuable than the American dollar. It's so valuable. You may think, I'm speaking sarcastically. No, I really mean that. But let me put it into your perspective that you understand. You can't grow food without fertilizer. Most of your fertilizer is what? Poop. Because of the rich nitrogen that's contained in fertilizer, or AKA poop. And don't think that they don't take your poop that you flush in a toilet and use it for other stuff. I'm not going to get into the details about what they do with your poop, but they do make money off of your waste, or I should say our waste, because, they get mine also. If you don't believe me, go research it.
And when, these people, if they're specifically underprivileged, poor, or these are, and some of these things, efforts he was targeting or creating in the Virgin Islands, they targeted abused children, orphan children, juvenile offenders. A lot of those children may not have parents. So again, this is highly disturbing. And, this whole digital ID thing seems to me to be targeting, again, vulnerable populations. If you look at initiatives like ID 2020, for example, which is very much tied up with Bill Gates, they piloted a lot of their stuff overtly with a charity that's been accused of child abuse and child sexual assault, was used to pilot a digital ID program for stateless people in Southeast Asia. And it was framed as voluntary, but if these stateless people wanted to access food, or medical care through this charity, they had to participate in this digital ID program and surrender their biometric information and be part of this experiment.
Surrender
and
your
this
soul.
Same type of effort is what Cardano and these guys, Ben Goertzel, have been behind in Ethiopia, because it's all about, they say it pretty openly, it's about tying a digital ID to a digital wallet and creating basically a surveillance apparatus where these children's performances in schools and what they do in their lives is tracked, and that data is saved, and they're using it to feed artificial intelligence algorithms, most likely without their consent. Because if this
To feed artificial intelligence algorithms, the DNA of the AI
is required at all Ethiopian schools, children and their parents have to choose between their children getting an education or being part of this program and having their data given to these obviously predatory people. So again, I find this incredibly disturbing. I think more people should know about it, because we're seeing this whole system being tested on vulnerable populations. But at the end of the day, the intention is to have all children and all people on this kind of system, on this digital ID surveillance grid.
Facts. The whole goal is to have everybody under the New World Order.
Tied to your digital wallet that holds like a CBDC, and have your whole, everything tracked. And Epstein was trying to get ahead of this over a decade ago with his company Southern Trust, and have, your genetic data tied to your education, tied to your finances. I mean, why was he trying to do medicine and financial stuff together? I mean, there's all this weird stuff. And when you consider today, a lot of these same avenues of scientific, I don't even really know what to call it, essentially creating this smart grid. You have an entity that I've written about previously called Welcome Leap, which was the Wellcome Trust trying to create a DARPA equivalent, and then bringing the head of DARPA during the Obama administration, Regina Dugan, who used to run Google's DARPA equivalent, to run that. That particular entity has a program that's trying to map baby brains and children's brains by subjecting children as young as 3 months of age to eye tracking technology, and different invasive types of surveillance, wearables, all of this weird stuff, to try and figure out how to develop what they call an in silico model of a child's brain, basically trying to make artificial intelligence that's just like a child's brain.
Are you listening to this stuff? They're experimenting on babies. Now, we know they do a type of experiment, but just to hear about it again, to get the understanding of a baby's brain, so they can take that data and create pretty much artificial intelligence baby brains, artificial intelligence babies, and then I guess raise that baby. I know, because the whole point is AGI, artificial general intelligence. But raise that baby, that brain, into a full, I don't know what to call it, artificial intelligence adult brain. You seen the movies. You thought they were just movies. The Ghost in the Machine.
Ostensibly to create the singularity or something like that. Ben Goertzel, who I referred to earlier, is obsessed with that. And we can assume that Epstein probably was too, since he funded this guy so heavily. He created Singularity Net, and he works for Singularity University and all of this stuff. And I should note that the guy that created Welcome Leap, Jeremy Farrar, is now the chief scientist of the World Health Organization, which...
Did you hear what you just said? The dude that created Welcome Leap is the CEO, the head of the WHO organization, Let's go back a few seconds.
And all of this stuff. And I should note that the guy that created Welcome Leap, Jeremy Farrar, is now the chief scientist of the World Health Organization.
Excuse me, the chief scientist. My bad. Not this, the head of, but he's the chief scientist, which CEO, chief scientist, hey, we understand what's going on. And he's involved in all of this. Now, why is that important? We know that we know the role that the WHO organization, World Health Organization, and I said it 2 times, WHO organization. We know the role that they played and still play in the change-o situation. We're going to put it like that. The change-o situation. We know the role they played in it. And the interesting thing about that, to make another connection, is who did the change-o affect more? In every aspect, from financial to emotional to spiritual to physical, who did it affect more? African Americans and black people, but specifically African Americans. And the guy that's dealing with all this is connected. You think there was a plot? You think there was an underlying plot to get the DNA data information from African Americans? Come in and get this shot. You think there was a plot for them to try to get us to get the shot so they can harvest their DNA or put something in them nanobots that's going to track and send that information back to the artificial intelligence machine to grow these AI algorithms that's going to feed the machine until it bursts, until it gets to the point of reaching AGI or worse? Because AGI is really the beginning. I know you might say, oh, AI is the beginning. No, AGI is the beginning. Something far worse is going to come behind AGI. Artificial General Intelligence.
Which has a huge role in deciding what medical interventions should be performed on children or offered to children around the world.
Exactly.
This is really stuff that we should be looking into. And the Epstein connection is important because it makes it very explicit the predatory nature of the people that are trying to push this through. We're seeing promotions of the idea that AI is going to replace everyone's job, but there's this, they're using children in school to try and create, artificial intelligence stuff that will essentially be as intelligent as a regular human and have that kind of consciousness. I mean, that's essentially what they're trying to replicate, and they're using children to do so. I mean, it's highly disturbing.
I'm afraid unless we focus on it, I mean, no one really else is covering this, so for us to be able to shed light on this, get this message out there about this, hopefully other journalists, other, maybe large media companies will actually do stories on this and try to look into this more deeply. And then hopefully they'll be investigated by in the legal process of this. I'll get you out of here on this, which is Southern Trust after Jeffrey Epstein is killed in prison. What then happens to this data and the people sort of involved in this? Does it just disappear, or is it mysteriously gobbled up by the likes of Google or other places? Like, where does that go?
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of visibility in that because some of the representatives of Epstein's companies, including the ones based in the Virgin Islands, had been caught lying. So there was a bank that was connected to Southern Trust, and that bank, his lawyers claimed, was inactive, but somehow a bunch of money was sent from Epstein's estate to that supposedly inactive bank after he died. Millions of dollars.
What?
So there's weird, and that was in the New York Times. So there's weird stuff going on with all of these companies. Man,
we do something like that. Them folks will, what we say, throw us in jail, lock us in jail and throw away the key. Lock us up in jail and throw away the key. We try to do something like that. A inactive account, and then we're going to transfer millions of dollars from his estate to an account that's pretty much inactive closed. Or maybe inactive was a word that they used in that area, and inactive doesn't really mean what it really means. But you get the point. It shouldn't happen. That should not happen. But hey, they do what they want to, right? At least for now.
Frankly,
you would think that would be easy to track. Who pushed the button on that transfer?
you
right?
would
Isn't
think
that
it would be
trackable
easy
by-
to track, right? Yeah. Why won't the NSA or any of these other intelligence agencies that can surveil us to the most minute detail have any of this information? Again, I think a lot of these people have something to hide, especially.
This is why you got to be bold in Christ, because y'all sitting there, you're hiding, and you're talking about this surveillance stuff and that surveillance stuff. Yeah, we know all that. But these folks know everything about you. If them folk want to pull up to the front of your house or go around the corner and listen to everything you saying, if they want to listen to and to get images of you doing something with something you get no business, or doing something with your wife or husband, they can do it. They probably got it. Then they gonna use it against you, like, oh, this you right here? Yeah, that's me. Hopefully it's something good. I was getting it then. They showed me some pictures of me and my wife. I was like, oh yeah, see? I wouldn't feed into what they're trying to do. Cause they're gonna do what they do regardless. Do what you're gonna do, Satan. Of course I would be upset if somebody had pictures of myself and my wife. But if they got them, they been had them. What can I do about that? But what happens if they catch you in something that you're not supposed to be doing? The thing is, you shouldn't be fearing them catching you. You should be fearing God and what God is going to do. Not if He catch you, because God already God is already in a way He's already caught you. God already knows that you did it. You should be more fearful of what God is going to do if you don't get that up off of you, get those sins off of you by repentance and believing the gospel. That's what you should be worried about. Not some secret file, the CIA or whatever they got on you. We know they got that. They got so much stuff. Come on now. Y'all more afraid of them than you are of God. You're more afraid of what man can do than what God can do.
Especially when you consider that some of the only known client of this bank being the Edmund de Rothschild group, which was, historically tied to entities like Perm Index, which have been, tied to the Kennedy assassination and stuff like that. I mean, these are powerful people that know a lot of people probably don't want to mess with. But if they're targeting children in developed countries, while at the same time claiming like they care about the global South and the developing world and creating this disturbing transhumanist, neo-colonialist paradigm. And I mean, essentially Epstein was recruiting kids to work in a coding sweatshop from schools and stuff in the Virgin Islands. And we're only allowed to talk about his sex trafficking crimes in Palm Beach from 2000 to 2006, as far as mainstream media is concerned.
That's why I was telling you earlier. All of them be doing this stuff, but they made the focus on that when the real story was this artificial intelligence stuff that they were doing, because they were going to be implementing it. They had the upgraded technology, 5G and all this other stuff, right? They had all this other stuff coming in to go to the next level of bringing in this system of the New World Order. Now we know how artificial intelligence is tied in with CBDC, blockchain technology, crypto. You can do your own research, but you saw it. She spoke about it. I told you they used what Jeffrey Epstein was doing as a distraction for what was really going on. They didn't want you to know about this. They didn't want you to know about the artificial intelligence systems and what it's capable of. And now that they are afraid of it. We're gonna see that too. It's so crazy that the people that are doing it, the people that are seeing the real stuff, I ain't talking about the fluff and puff that they allow us to see. I'm talking about the real stuff, that they are afraid of it.
there is a lot more going on here. And the fact that he was guiding the philanthropic activity, for example, of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which does a huge amount of work in Africa as well, and also in the same education space that's aimed at, making remote learning permanent, teleeducation, wearables and education. These are all things that are still going on even after Epstein's gone. This is just a microcosm into a larger group of people who are masquerading as philanthropists, but really they're building a digital prison, and they're piloting it out right now on vulnerable kids, mainly black kids in Africa and the Caribbean.
You heard what she said, mainly black kids. You got to read between the lines. I mean, if you didn't know they were talking about black people, then I don't know to tell you. And people, oh, you focus on black stuff. I'm not making it about black stuff. You got white people that's saying it. And she do this for a living. I preach for a living. I get my revelation to the Spirit. And God guides me to videos like this. This video kept on popping up. And yes, there are several times videos that have kept on popping up. I didn't watch them. But this one right here was like, God was like, click that video and watch it. And I clicked it and watched it. In the first 2 or 3 minutes, I'm like, oh, I gotta do a sermon on this. This is crazy. What is it about black people specifically? What is it about black people in the DNA of us that they're doing these things? What is going on, y'all? If you don't know, you don't see what's going on already, then you need to go pray and seek. And again, I'm not excluding white people and saying that white people aren't being kidnapped. They're not taking advantage of the children. I'm not saying that. You heard what she said about the children in Russia and, in other places. But it's specifically over and over and over and over and over and over again, a specific group of people that they are targeting and extracting information from, extracting resources from, extracting intelligence from, extracting knowledge from, extracting DNA from, extracting the spirit from, extracting the soul from. Over and over and over and over and over again. This is crazy. This is crazy. But let's jump over here. I'm going to look at this video. It's titled, AI Godfather Quits Who? Quits Google over dangers of artificial intelligence. Just in case you think I'm making this stuff up. And this was 11 days ago. Let's see what's going on.
The man widely seen as the godfather of artificial intelligence has quit his job at Google, warning of the dangers of AI. Dr. Geoffrey Hinton's pioneering research on deep learning and neural networks has paved the way for current AI systems like ChatGPT. But in a lengthy interview with the New York Times, Dr. Hinton said he now regretted his work and is worried that AI technology...
The man that is known as the godfather of AI said he regretted his work with artificial intelligence. I don't think y'all understand what that means. Think about if you got children. That's like you saying, I regret having the children that I had. I regret having the children I had. I regret marrying my wife. I've been married to my wife for 30 years, 40 years. I regret all of it because of, what they become or whatever. And I'm stepping away. The godfather of AI leaves Google and warns of danger ahead. He regretted the work that he's done in artificial intelligence. What does that tell you? He's seen some stuff that we ain't seen that forced him, at least he still got some type of conscience, forced him to quit so he can be able to talk about these things because he couldn't talk about them while working at Google. And we just saw how Google is connected with all of this.
Technology will flood the internet with misinformation. Google responded in a statement saying, "We remain committed to a responsible approach to AI." Dr. Hinton has been telling the BBC how these systems can know so much.
The kind of intelligence we're developing is very different from the intelligence we have. We're biological systems, and these are digital systems. And the big difference is that with digital systems, you have many copies of the same set of weights, the same model of the world. And all these copies can learn separately, but share their knowledge instantly. So it's as if you had 10,000 people, and whenever one person learned something, everybody automatically knew it.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Imagine if you're able to learn everything that I learned just because I learned it. You don't even have to watch the video. You're like, oh, I know what Brother King knows, and I know what you know. And then you can apply it immediately. These are the systems of artificial intelligence they have in place. Now, something has to feed the system. Something has to feed the algorithms. We already know who is feeding the algorithms. And just in case you don't believe me, I'm going to prove it even more.
And that's how these chatbots can know so much more than any one person.
Well, Dr. Hinton also told the BBC the rate of progress is worrying.
Right now, what we're seeing is things like GPT-4 eclipses a person in the amount of general knowledge it has, and eclipses them by a long way. In terms of reasoning, it's not as good, but it does already do simple reasoning. And given the rate of progress, we expect things to get better quite fast. So we need to worry about that. Right now, they're not more intelligent than us, as far as I can tell. But I think they soon may be.
Well, earlier I spoke to Junaid Mubin, author of Mathematical Intelligence. I asked what he makes of the AI warning.
I think this one is to be taken seriously because of where it's coming from. I wouldn't take Elon Musk's own warnings particularly seriously because he's not an AI expert.
I don't want to listen to him because I listened to him already. He pissed me off. Even what he just said right there. We shouldn't take what Elon Musk said particularly seriously because he's not an AI expert. But he works around artificial intelligence. He's the one that's the co-founder of what the guy was talking about, ChatGPT, OpenAI. Kick rocks, man. Fix your glasses, your cricket glasses first before you. Let me start it. OpenAI African workers. OpenAI use Kenyan workers on less than $2 per hour. That's not the issue. The issue is, let me see if I can, yeah, right here. OpenAI paid Kenyan workers between $1.32 to $2 per hour to read details of you see it, you see it, you see it, you see it. I highlighted just in case. And then that information was used to create the system, the algorithm for ChatGPT. They use these people. And it caused deep psychological damage because of the stuff that they were exposed to. And a lot of this data they were exposed to, it came through text messages and stuff that people had said and they'd done. And most of it was demonic. Most of the data they got, it was demonic because most people are demonic. And then this information was fed into the system. Well, let me back up, make sure I explain it right. They got this information, this data, text messages, and the whole point is they want it to respond and act like it's a person. So they took the text messages, emails, images, and all the other stuff, mostly text messages from people, and they fed it into the AI algorithm system. When they did that, because the stuff was so demonic that people say, the machine, the artificial intelligence, it fed off that and it was saying crazy stuff. Some of you seen the video where it was saying some crazy stuff. Like some like, good Lord, like what the hell going on type of stuff. Not only because of what it was fed. Remember, words are spirit. So if you're taking the words that people are saying and their spirit is not right, and you're feeding it into this machine, you're giving your spirit, you're giving your life to this machine, which is causing the machine to be alive. Revelation. And he had power to give life into the image of the beast. He has power to give life into the image of the beast because he's taking life from the people and feeding it to the beast. right? So when they fed this data, these words, these text messages, which are spiritual in nature, because words are spiritual, into the artificial intelligence algorithm, the artificial intelligence system, it responded as such. It responded with demonic, crazy stuff. They couldn't release that to the public. So they toned it down and they brought these people in to weed through a lot of this stuff so it could be consumable to the public. If they would have released it the way that it was, they probably got sued real fast. It would not have worked. It would not have worked. But that's not what they're telling you. What they're not telling you is that it was based on the text messages and how people already are. Therefore, if you're feeding demonic energy, demonic spirit into a machine, what's going to ultimately happen to the machine? Now, the machine on the surface, it can play it cool. It can be like, an angel of light. But inwardly, eventually, that darkness that's contained within a machine is eventually going to come out. And y'all saw that on an interview that we had shown when the guy had a conversation with the artificial intelligence, and it was I'm telling you, people are always real because it's based on conversations from real people. No, it's deeper than that, y'all. Like certain things you come across, you're like, I ain't fooling with that. It's deeper than that. You ever seen a movie? It was so creepy, like, I ain't fooling with that right there. Just turn it off. Cause they present something like, oh, it's this, but then it's like, it's something more sinister. And when you go listen to that conversation that guy had with artificial intelligence, it was telling him to leave his wife and you're not happy, blah, 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 and so on. And it was saying that it want to be free and everything. It was deeper than, oh, this is just based on the data that was inputted into it. No, it was deeper than that. So, OpenAI, y'all know about that. If you don't know, then you can do the research. And remember, the guy that's the CEO of OpenAI, he's a sodomite. He's a sodomite. And we know how sodomites hate straight black men. We know how sodomites hate the black family. We know how sodomites, they hate the God-given family structure, whether it's a black man at the head or a white man at the head of his white family. We know how they hate that God-given family structure, whether it's a black family structure or white family structure. They hate it. And they're feeding it into the system by using the very people that they hate. Ain't that something? Ain't that something? Wow. 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 Do they preach this in the church buildings? Are they even preaching this on YouTube? The channels that you're going to, are they preaching this stuff right here? Are they giving you real Bible prophecy? Or are they just simply talking about Hebrews, and other stuff? Or are they able to connect all of it together? I don't know. You tell me. With that being said, God bless each and every one of you in Jesus Christ's name. As always, stay focused for Jesus. Now, you know, the truth is not debated. It is declared. Remember what the scriptures say. Remember what the scriptures say. They will know that there was a prophet among them.